Welcome into another edition of WRAL Triangle and 2. I'm Mark Bergen. He's Luis Fernandez. UNC coming off a big win this weekend against rival Duke. And Luis, we are into tournament play. The ACC tournament tips off on Tuesday. How you doing this afternoon, my man?
I'm good, dude. It's great that we're already here at this time of the year. It's wild that we've gotten to this point where we're already here in postseason. The regular season is done. We've got UNC and Duke with a double bye, so they won't play until Thursday. NC State fighting for its postseason life. They will play Louisville on Tuesday. So you really hope for the Wolfpack that is going to be a dub. But we're going to get to them in just a little bit too.
Yeah, we're going to start with UNC. I always have questions, Luis. First question off the bat is, in your opinion, is North Carolina going to get that final number 1 seed heading into the NCAA tournament? Because right now it looks like Houston, UConn, Purdue are pretty well set. Can the Tar Heels get that 4th number 1 seed in the big tournament?
So I think it's possible, but I just don't think it's going to be up to them, if that makes sense. I think the only way that UNC could, for sure, get that final number 1 seed, maybe if Tennessee, loses in the first round or something like that. But they need to win the ACC tournament outright. And then they need Tennessee to lose the SEC tournament at some point in time. If those two things happen, then I think there are some genuine questions. We have a lot of people bring up just the whole notion that UNC and Tennessee played each other and that UNC won. I mean, I think that should matter for something. Tennessee's metrics have been pretty impressive, and they've also played a lot of quad 1 teams. Some of that, I think, just goes back to the kind of what people think about SEC basketball right now versus what people think about ACC basketball right now. So it's definitely possible. I just think it's going to be UNC can only control so much in that equation. But last time I saw it, Joe Lunardi had them as the top 2 seed, which, in some cases might be a pretty good thing.
Okay. See, this is where I push back because you mentioned the head-to-head against Tennessee already took care of the Volunteers. And Tennessee lost this past weekend to Kentucky, snapped a 7-game winning streak. Arizona lost to USC. Iowa State lost to Kansas State. Do I need to keep going? It's just...
Well, I mean, if you want me to turn on that hat, right? Now, North Carolina did get the win against Duke. Don't get me wrong, but let me pull
on
up
the road,
mind
you, at Cameron Indoor Stadium, as if that doesn't count for anything for the Tar Heels.
No,
but,
I mean,
yeah,
it counts, but I think part of it is UNC before this game had not been the most consistent. They had not been looking as great as you would expect. Getting the wins: Virginia Tech, Virginia, Miami, NC State, Notre Dame, Duke. So yes, they are on a 6-game winning streak, right? But UNC, some of those games were incredibly close against lesser competition. You had back in late January, early February, where they had loss, win, loss, win, loss. So I think there were questions about UNC from that perspective. I think they have started to show that is no longer the case. But what I'm saying is UNC is not the end all be all number. Yes, 100%. If they don't get the number 1 seed, they're robbed. I don't think that's the case. Because, I mean, you look at the Vols right here. I'll pull up Tennessee's schedule here. Hold on 1 second as I type
While
this
you
up.
do that, do that, here's what I think we're shaping up to. UNC, if Arizona, say UNC gets a 1 seed, Arizona gets a 2 seed. If they're in the same bracket, rematch Caleb Love against his former team. That's what I think we're working towards right now. And maybe Tennessee gets that final 1 seed, and then UNC is the 2 seed in that bracket.
Yeah.
That's what I think we're building towards. I want to live in that world, Luis.
I don't know if I do. I don't know if I do, Mark. But when you look at Tennessee, right? So even their last 4 games, yes, they did lose a tight one at home versus Kentucky, but they had just beaten Auburn, Alabama, South Carolina, 2 of those 3 on the road. People are going to talk about that. They beat Kentucky already earlier this year. Both Tennessee and UNC are deserving of that number 1 seed, but ultimately just because of where they've been positioned here as the season has wrapped up, I do think that it's still Tennessee in the driver's seat unless they lose. If they do lose in the SEC tournament and UNC wins, my expectation would be for UNC to get that number 1 seed, but it's going to be tight. It's going to be close. And, with the way these teams are playing, it could come down to the championship game in their respective conference tournaments.
We'll agree to disagree there between UNC and Tennessee. As a Tar Heels fan, Lewis, I want to put your fan hat on for just a second.
Okay.
Do you want the Tar Heels to play the Duke Blue Devils again in the ACC tournament?
So, I think that'd be really cool from a fun fan perspective, right?
But are you afraid the Blue Devils could finally win a third match? Are you afraid of the Blue Devils at all? Because North Carolina won both matchups in the regular season.
I think UNC matches up well against this Duke team. This iteration of UNC matches up well against this iteration of Duke. Duke does not defend the paint as well as they probably should. Some of that is because of roster construction, and they don't have as much size in the front court. And so you're able to get people like Armando Bacot and Harrison Ingram to play well. I mean, Cormac Ryan, geez Louise, where did that come from? So no. I don't really care too much. I think it's always fun when those two teams play. I think, though, from a UNC perspective, and I'd have to check this. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's one thing that I feel like people always talk about. I do not believe UNC has ever won the ACC tournament and won the NCAA championship in the same season. I don't think that has ever happened. So from a UNC perspective, maybe you'd rather lose in the semis and then win the NCAA championship, but maybe that's kind of what you would prefer. But no, I mean, I don't think UNC is afraid of Duke. I don't think this iteration of UNC is afraid of Duke. I don't think that it is, like I said, I think it's just a difficult matchup for what this Duke team and this UNC team are this year.
What was the atmosphere like in Durham? Because you were boots on the ground as part of WRAL's coverage on Saturday before the big game.
I mean, it was great. These games are always so cool because, especially when they're played in Cameron, because of how small it is, and so it just feels like you take all of the atmosphere, all of the pressure of this kind of moment, and it feels like you're taking it from here and you're just like scrunching it down and putting it all into this very small building.
It's intimate.
Intimate, yes, is a good word for it. There are a lot of cool people that were there. Coach K was there. You had Dave Canales, a new Carolina Panthers head coach, was there. Michael Strahan was there again. I think Michael Strahan has been to a couple of Duke games. I'm sure there's a reason for that. I should look into that. But it was really fun. It was a fantastic time as usual. When these two teams, just to kind of put this in perspective, right? This was the 50th meeting between these two teams when they are both in the top 10. Okay. Before, the record was 25-24. Now it's UNC leads that series 26-24 to show how tight that is. And before this game, the average score of those matchups was 77-76. So by all accounts, this was not a blowout, but it was essentially a blowout when you look at what these games are normally like. So it was a really cool game, really fun game. I do think one thing I do want to also shout out here. We talked about this briefly on the WRAL plus extended coverage of the game. Hubert Davis needs to be given his flowers. What he has done as a head coach, you've continued to see his growth. You've continued to see him going from that national championship run in year one, which was, wild, and I don't think a lot of people expected. Year two, the huge fall off, the complete disappointment of not making the tournament after being the preseason number one. And then year three, revamping the entire roster, bringing in people and getting everyone to work together so cohesively. You go back to the Duke game at UNC. Armando Bacot obviously played really well. Who would you say was the next best player in that game? Harrison Ingram. A transfer from Stanford. And then the biggest player in this UNC Duke game, Cormac Ryan, a transfer for Notre Dame. So I think it just speaks a little bit to how Hubert Davis continues to craft these rosters. So I think much flowers need to be given to him.
Yeah, I thought Cormac Ryan was going to outscore Duke in the first half the way he was shooting it. To start the game, it was 3 straight 3-pointers, and it was like, wait a second, it's, forget UNC versus Duke. This might be Cormac Ryan versus Duke in the first half.
It was so funny because the first and second one were from almost the exact same spot. And so I had the broadcast up on my phone and I was like, is my stream lagging here? What's going on? I checked the score. I'm like, oh no, those are 3 more points. that was Cormac Ryan. Just truly elevated. He's used to dropping a lot of points at Cameron before. I think when he was at Notre Dame, he had a 28-point game at one point. So he's buckets, man. Now you'd love for him to continue that 3-point shooting streak, especially for the rest of the tournament.
Both tournaments, I would say, the floor spacing and how that can help the Tar Heels offense. And it seems to be a different guy each night for North Carolina, whether it's RJ Davis, who I'd say is the favorite to win ACC Player of the Year. We know Bacot's a double-double machine. Ingram has played well at times this year. And then Ryan shooting at a high clip at the right time. And when you get into the tournaments, the ACC tournament will be in Washington, D.C., but you start to play in some arenas that are more football stadiums, and you wonder if that affects the shooting at all. Keep an eye on that when it comes to Cormac Ryan's ability to stretch the floor. And he's been hot for the Tar Heels for the last month or so, getting hot at the right time too. We got to talk about Duke, Lewis. Yep. Where does this Duke Blue Devils team go from here? Remember, though, the Blue Devils will be a 2 seed in the ACC tournament as well. So not all hope is lost even after another loss to the North Carolina Tar Heels.
No, I think it's really easy to overreact to single games. That's just how the brain works, right? And so for Duke, they were playing some of the best basketball in the country coming into this game. Most metrics still have them inside the top 10 in terms of, offensive, adjusted offensive efficiency. Their defense had been playing a lot better, but struggled at times against UNC, especially from Cormac Ryan, which was pretty wild. My thing with Duke is just, it's all about consistency. And, you hear, head coach John Shire and the players all say it, right? They're like, we have to play full 40 minutes. We have to play full 40 minutes. And that is coach speak to an extent, but it's also true. You have the underclassmen guards of Jared McCain, Tyrese Proctor. They were a big reason why Duke was even in it going into halftime. Part of the reason why UNC did not run away with that game in the first half. And it's their ability not just to score, but also to affect the game in other ways. Tyrese Proctor had a few steals. Jared McCain continues to be one of the best rebounding guards in the ACC. And Kyle Filipowski finished with a huge stat line. Obviously, I think it was like 23 points, I want to say, on the game. He only had, I believe, 4 in the first half. He finished with like 19 second half points. Some of that's foul trouble. Some of that ties into that. He does have a tendency to get in foul trouble. But when you look at this team, you need more consistency throughout the course of the game. Because if Duke played like they did in the second half, in the first half, I think they would have won that game.
There was more urgency, and I know that's hindsight's 2020. I wasn't really like, even when Duke cut it to 3, when Roach's 3 bounced in towards the end of the game, I'm like, the Tar Heels still, like the outcome of the game wasn't really ever in question to me.
Yeah.
I credit the Blue Devils for fighting till the end, but it's like, where was that urgency from the jump ball? And after the game, John Shire even told reporters as such, saying, hey, early on when Cormac Ryan's getting open looks in Cameron and he's going to knock them down, that really was a big difference. And that 3 in the second half as well by Elliot Cadeau, too, I think was like the real nail in the coffin during Saturday's game.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's they
reeled it a 2-pointer, but it looked like it was a 3-pointer. That the late shot at the end of the shot clock buzzer.
Yeah, no, I know which one you're talking about. I think that some of it is just urgency and being ready to go. You can only use youth as an excuse for so long, but when you compare the two, obviously Duke is significantly younger than UNC is, and I think UNC is ready for that. But so that it's like moments like that make you a little more concerned for Duke come the NCAA tournament. They are incredibly talented, and they're going to be able to score at a high clip. It's just about those other things, the loose balls, the finishing through contact, the rebound, not physically rebounding, but rebounding from those lulls. Jeremy Roach is not going to miss upwards of 10 shots. That he's been incredibly efficient this year, so that's not something that's going to like continuously happen. I think at times this Duke team can get a little bit in its own head, but If you told me Duke came back and won the ACC tournament, I would believe you. Like, this team is not out of it by any means. Is their road to a Final Four a little more difficult now? Most likely, yes. I've seen Lenardi drop them down to a 3 seed in some situations. So they still have to, I think, they had a lot of momentum before this game. One game should not completely throw off their momentum, but I do feel like what's going to be big for them in the ACC tournament is to get that going again, continue to feel good about where they're at so that you can propel yourself into the NCAA tournament.
We are 15 minutes into today's episode of WRAL Triangle and 2, Lewis. We mentioned all the star-studded people that went to go watch this game, and we buried the lead. Cooper Flagg being there in attendance of the game. And if you're bummed about this year's Duke team, just wait till next year because you have a loaded recruiting class coming in. The Blue Bloods, they don't rebuild, they reload. Cooper Flagg, I'm telling you, he's the name of a player we're going to be talking about around this time next year. Mark my words.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. One group, though, we haven't talked too much about, though, Mark, is the NC State Wolfpack.
Let me put this out there, please. Right? Let me take the lead on this. 7 seasons now with Kevin Keatts, and short of winning the ACC tournament, the Wolfpack won't make the NCAA tournament. You have 2 tournament appearances, no NCAA tournament wins during that tenure. That's just where you're at with this team right now. And you've got the 2 DJs, DJ Burns, DJ Horn are good. Casey Morsell. We'll see what the Wolfpack can do Tuesday against Louisville. Louisville, a 15 seed, lowest seed in the ACC tournament. But I don't know where you go from here, but those are just the facts of where NC State finds itself heading into the conference tournament.
Can't lose to Louisville. I'll tell you that much. You want to talk about bad taste in your mouth? You cannot lose to Louisville in the first round of the ACC tournament. I think it's so tough because I remember about halfway through the season, people were talking about NC State and the bubble. And it's just really since that Pitt Wake kind of stretch there at the middle of February, early February. I mean, look, you had NC State. They competed against UNC at home. UNC pulls away late in the second half. You're feeling good about them. They bounce back with a win against Louisville. They beat Wake Forest at home, the double bird game, if you will. And then you have that 3-game losing streak. And then you win 2 games. And then you lose 2. And then you win 1. And then you lose 1. And then you win 1. And now they've lost 4 games in a row. I'm not going to pretend like they were losing to bad teams in this last 4-game losing streak. Obviously, at Florida State, at UNC, versus Duke, at Pitt. Like, it's not like they were playing nobodies, but it's just it's the continued troubling trend that you see with this team, where they're not scoring, they're not clearly playing great defense. I mean, I don't expect this team to make a run in the ACC tournament. And maybe I'm going to eat my words. I just don't see that happening. It's a tough position for NC State and the Wolfpack to be. Some reminders about Kevin Keatts and his contract situation, right? Because of the NCAA violations / punishments that happened before he got there that were enacted, he was able to extend his contract or enact an extension to his contract for 2 years. So his contract goes through, I believe it's the end of the 2028 season at this point. So, in terms of his future, that would be, if there were to be some kind of firing, obviously that would be a good chunk of change that's going to have to be bought out. But and you look at just what the past few years, you said 7 with Kevin Keatts have been like at NC State, right? You had 2 NCAA tournament appearances. In those, the highest they've gotten in the AP polls, they got up to number 15 in the 2018-2019 season. The past few years, 11-21, 14-11 in 2022-2021 season, 23-11 last year, 17-14 currently this year. I think there's a lot of reason for fans to be upset and frustrated. I do not know what's going to happen next with Kevin Keatts. I do not know what's going to happen next with NC State. But what I can say is you better not lose to Louisville. You better not lose to Louisville on Tuesday.
let this episode of the WRAL Triangle and Two podcast be known as the Continued Troubling Trend podcast or the Double Peace podcast, Luis Fernandez. That is a good place for us to wrap on the eve of the ACC basketball tournament. We have a lot to tease because we have tournament coverage. I know Casey Hintz will be in Washington, D.C.
Yep.
We've also launched a sports betting podcast today. Online sports betting becomes legal here in North Carolina. So check that out over on WRALSportsFan.com. Lewis, what else am I missing?
No, just keep an eye out for continued coverage throughout the course of the ACC tournament. We'll have you covered from a TV perspective as well as from an online perspective at WRAL.com, WRALSportsFan.com. And on top of that, too, watch out when Selection Sunday and the beginning of the tournament comes around. We'll have an interactive bracket that you all can participate in. Always a fun time. And we're going to work on crafting some good content for you so that you can do the best in your bracket pools. Remember, Mark, I don't want to toot because these are not my numbers. Like, I am not the one doing these analytics. But last year, before the tournament started, using KenPom and some history and things like that.
Oh yeah, that's right. Your formula. It is your formula. It
is not an original idea. I am just continuing to spread the gospel, if you will. But you can look at some numbers and determine who is going to win the NCAA tournament. Not one team, multiple teams, but just kind of something to keep in the back of your mind. We'll have plenty of good information like that for you online as we get closer to the big dance.
Lewis, you might not want to claim it, but we'll make sure our listeners and viewers have the Luis Fernandez formula when they're filling out their bracket because it's good information. It's good information, and that's where I'm going to put my stamp of approval on what it is that you do. You might not want to claim it for yourself, but you presented it in a way where it's like, this makes a lot of sense. And year in and year out, it's one of those, a dozen or so teams that goes on and wins the big dance.
Yeah, this is one of the best times of the year. I'm so pumped. I'm so excited.
Same. Get me to Selection Sunday, fill out like a million brackets. And again, something that legally here in North Carolina, we can now gamble on as well. Very excited about that. Lewis, you're the absolute best. Your coverage on Saturday, Duke UNC was fantastic. Well done there. For Luis Fernandez, I'm Mark Bergen. Thanks for watching WRAL Triangle and Two. If you're on YouTube, tap that subscribe button. Apple and Spotify, 5 stars only. We will see you next time. Happy tournament time, everybody. Take care. So long, everybody.